This is Mr. X, and here is my end of week for the second week in June, June 8th through June 12th, 2026, on EU and GU. So we'll start on the monthly time frame. On GU, it's not really helpful. Purely, if we're just looking at it, we could say we're targeting this little piece here because demand's still in control. But once we go over to EU, you'll see that it's a different story. Still a monthly inside bar, but we are closer to the low. Not really helpful. We'll go down a time frame and see how that helps. I'm going to EU. This clarifies quite a bit because we have broken the previous month low. We cannot expect a previous month high to break. That's an outside bar. The last outside bars were way back here, 53 monthly bars. That's 4 years ago. So we're not expecting that. So that helps clarify GU a little bit more. Plus, price cleared out the full void in this leg. There's no more IRL to target. Broke the last point of demand. So this indicates that it looks like we're pushing down. Can we range? We've already been ranging for 1 year. This is the June of 2025 candle. So we could range. We could just keep ranging. See, this was a 2-year range. But being on the monthly, it doesn't really prevent us from having significant trades. So we'll go down to the lower time frame, GU on the weekly. This is indicating we are pushing down. So we have bearish structure. Swept a high. This remains strong here. So the next indication would be a lower low down here somewhere. Knowing that, we're going to count this as a CPB. We do have supply and control. This little break here. So that's the floor. Further break. Even now, another floor. So we're just expecting this to come back up here. If that changes, if this produces a break up here, it could still just be coming for all the IRL in the range. So we don't really plan out counter trend moves. We want to focus more on the pro trend move. On EU, this one is a little different because we have a strong low right there. We broke this high with a body. So purely on the weekly, we would be looking for this move. And we get one break here, fill the void, floor. We kind of expect that, but the weekly is just following and making this monthly leg. So that's the monthly. So now we're expecting this. This holds much less significance now. And you'll see this come up a few times on different time frames. If we mitigate a daily supply, we're not expecting a strong 4-hour low to hold. And even going down another time frame, we don't expect a strong 15-minute low to hold against a 4-hour supply. We're just going to follow these zones. And when we get to the weekly, those are more significant pullback areas. So you can see here, there's more of a weekly range. Price can come off here. There's nothing saying that it's got to come up deep into the weekly or even mitigate the weekly. Our goal for this week is just to keep shorting. Follow that, follow the price action for the continuation, because right now this low is targeted. We had that break up here. We had this break, floor. Or if that was the floor, then we had this break, That was the floor, and then we have this break. So yeah, definitely have a chain going. And this low didn't do anything, so we're going to target this low. Going to GU on the weekly. There really is no weekly new zone. I'm not going to draw this on because we just didn't make it very far down here. This zone didn't do anything, didn't break anything. So we're going to still trade daily POIs on GU. I'm going down to the daily. The week opened down here. So Friday ended with daily supply taking control. So now we're just targeting this low. This low didn't do anything. We get supply control. We're expecting that to eventually just break. So all week, we're looking for reasons to short. Right? I was looking here inside the range. Looking here. Then past 2 days as well. Price continued to move up, but my plan said to short it. There's no lower time frame indication that we were targeting anything for longs, like on the 4-hour. Euro on the daily, very much similar. We're sticking to this weekly zone here. I'm not going to draw that through. I don't draw zones and zones, so that's just not what I do. And very similar to GU, this weekly zone, I'm using it as a reference point. It's a higher time frame zone. This could have produced the move. And as we move up deeper into it, then maybe that's the move. But never was anything indicated on the 4-hour for longs. So here's where the 4-hour now. This is our more significant intraday time frame. We're going to look for just order flow targeting to help push that 15-minute and 1-minute price action. So Monday, we mitigated this weekly range. I was looking for shorts. Tuesday, mitigated the daily range. Wednesday, mitigated the daily again. This is where Wednesday was really looking good. Mitigation, break of last point. Creates this zone. So once this floor is locked in, we could trade towards that in the low. News came out late Thursday, so that didn't work out. At that point, we could start manipulating this zone to just the wick and see what we're doing. But there was never any reason to take longs other than possibly on the 15-minute. On the 4-hour, there's no reason for it. Even from here, we broke. These aren't significant. We do have 4-hour demand to control at this point, but it's not targeting anything. There's really no IRL. We have some IRL reacted to and taken, but there's no more. There's just one straight drop. There's never anything to target for counter trend on the 4-hour. That's the same with the euro. But mostly 15-minute price action all week until Wednesday, Thursday, where we had some 4-hour zones made. But I was always looking for shorts this week until a little bit on today. Longs could have played out. Now we go on to the 15-minute, where most of this week happened on the 15-minute. Like I was saying, I was looking for this weekly range mitigation, anything to produce the follow through for the pro trend move. Or if it's not going to follow through, it's going to create, most times it's going to create that higher time frame move. You can see here, we react, we come up, we break, we're taking some IRL. We don't have a floor yet, so if this was the floor, break again, we could target that, but it just didn't happen. So nothing, really no POIs, nothing happened on GU on Monday. EU had one trading opportunity. This was more following on from GU mitigating that weekly. So I was leaning on shorts for my bias. You could see even though this low started to take some IRL, we got the floor. We could say we're taking more IRL. But price quickly broke structure, got the floor, and just trading some double confirmation in here for the pro trend move. Let's see. So this was an extreme zone. It was the highest point that broke some kind of demand. Entry model was pretty clear. Monday. See, once we get into it right here, first mitigation, broke structure, get the sweep. We never trade above the sweep point. We come down, we react. So pretty much this is the whole flip leg. I needed this to confirm some kind of break. Could have executed right there. Something like this would have been good. I decided to lay off that one and wait for price to come back up. We flipped, took liquidity here. And created this liquidity POI, so that was the entry right there. Went for 3R down to this CPB. At the time I was thinking it was a CPB because we took out some IRL, got the floor, got the break again. So taking out more pieces would have been my plan. Price decided to go bullish in Asia. Pretty much straight up all night into somewhat a half hour after New York open, where we mitigated the Euro weekly range. And again, I'm just looking for different reasons to short the market. There is no 4-hour significant zones in here. So the only significant zones I'm looking at are these ones. So I'll trade away from those. This one quickly had supply took control. So mitigate, break, floor, break again. We get these really long wicks which are always an indication of a lot of orders. But trading in that direction is really good against these wicks. I'll just show the 15-minute for both of these. So we bounce off these wicks as well. Create this flip zone, get that break here. So two different opportunities in here. This one not as good because we would have to anticipate a outside bar. And what I mean by that is we broke the previous day high. This is the previous day low. And that's the current date. Oh, yeah. This is it's the low. Monday's low. Monday's high. Tuesday's low. So we did have. So that was still IRL here. But you'll notice sometimes when it does take the previous day high, something like this, price likes to protect the current day low if it happens in Asia or London. And my theory with that is that who's ever pushing these orders up wants to finish positive for the day, so they protect this area. No. So we have these two flip zones. Again, really clear price action on the 1 minute. We get the first mitigation, break, sweep, flip zone. So that could be taken right here. We also had another sweep in here for the floor. And so that can be taken. Coming down to this next flip zone. Now, when it's not the best targeting, I do like to have the floor. It's just waiting for liquidity. And this one didn't. There was no floor here. This high did not break anything. That would be the first point. So this breaking here, this would be the floor. But either way, we already had order flow. Take the trade. Got this flip zone. Pretty easy to see here. We come back up, we fill the void. We do not take the high. You'll see this quite often as well. The high holds. The flip zone. More liquidity taken. Well, this is the key. That's the void fill. So that's all the liquidity we really need. And then this flip zone here. You'll notice that flip zones happen a lot more than liquidity POIs. It's just something that is fairly common. So now going back to Tuesday on GU. Had somewhat of this daily mitigation in New York, but GU just didn't make any POIs. Really nothing of value to say about GU on this day. The price would have come up to here, that would have been great. This was not a POI, so I don't want to trade that sweep. Then moving on, we go back to the daily here. And start shifting this as price continues to move up. And we get to Wednesday, we get the daily mitigation. So again, we're just looking for reasons to short. That's pretty much the game plan all week until something indicates longs. That's the mitigation, even on the 4-hour. Let's check the 1 hour to see if that was the last point of demand. Yeah, so we quickly break that last point of demand on the 4-hour. Again, just nothing too interesting on GU. We get the first break. That's not a floor yet. It's just an extreme point. Yeah, I'd say it's a floor. So this zone here, something up here broke this point. So we broke the point, then we traded up. So now we can say supply takes control. The significance here, okay, so there's not much going on GU. If we look at EU at the same time, EU is fairly loose price action. We don't get the floor specifically. We don't mitigate anything to make this the last point of demand. We don't even, I think we don't even react off that. We just miss it. But using GU to say supply takes control, and to say we're targeting stuff here, that's a significant thing to do that helps trade EU. Even though I took more trades on EU this week, it certainly did not, it's not clear cut. Let's see, like this small flip zone here. It's really not too good looking. Yeah, I'll go down to the 5-minute. Price came up to the 5-minute. There wasn't any. Yeah, just no entry miles. Mitigate, kind of drift off, take liquidity, don't flip, drift off, come up, take more liquidity, just drift off. EU had much better trades on the 1-minute and even clearer 15-minute POIs. So again, we were using GU, starting to just favor shorts, target shorts. We get this, again, you can't really see anything clear on here. We're starting to chain. So originally I would have something like this. I'm kind of expecting this zone. That's the one I prefer, but I'm not going to avoid this zone because when it's can be seen as a flip on the 5-minute. See here we react, push up, push down and break here. Then I'll draw it in on the 5-minute. Going down to the 1-minute, so back to Wednesday. This one was a little different for me to trade here. So we're coming down. We create the zone here. We come up and mitigate. But this isn't, there's no structural liquidity. So we get the tap in here. There's just one leg up. This high doesn't break anything. There's nothing for it to break. Even like this high, just wicks below. There's nothing for that to break. So technically this is a more of a subtle sweep. The reason I took this trade was because of just basically that move. And then we get the flip down here. So I'll execute fairly quickly. We get the reaction and then break right here. And I'm looking to enter at that point. And I definitely covered above quite a bit, just in case this high got swept. But where it stands right now, we had some liquidity here and this liquidity. And there's no other liquidity over here. And there's some kind of, I guess, news event. I had my targeted for that low, and it just spiked low and got me out. Then we just reset. We'll go back to the, just pull back price here. You can see on the 15-minute, all these wicks down. This is just one wick down. So no new zones made. All this price action wicked lower, came right back up. So we're just working right out of the same POI. This is the POI that broke this zone. It's still making its move. So we're just going to trade that zone. So we come up, we do take all that liquidity out. And right now, we're looking for entry models. We could say, yeah, that's liquidity, but there was no flip, no entry model. We come up, we take this out again, and we just have to be patient and wait for more liquidity. So it takes a long time. We come up, we take that liquidity. And this was a fairly clear trade. This nice little 1-minute chain here. We take liquidity and have a strong push down, creating this liquidity POI. Again, to take that. In these cases, I like to cover the whole chain. There's really nothing I can do if it comes up to this extreme, other than if it does, just wait for it to set up again. And so yeah, that sold off rapidly after that entry. That was Wednesday's trades. Now think about this price action here. I do want to mention, I mentioned it last week. When we mitigate a higher time frame zone and we're pushing away, I'm not looking for this to be targeted with too much strength. Yes, we do have price action indicating that that can be targeted, but this is the initial move off the higher time frame. This could hold. So keep that in mind. Once it clears the void, takes all the IRL, like we took significant IRL. This is a little too close to the extreme. So I'd say it cleared the void here. I'm not really looking to target this high. And you'll see that happen often where you do want to hesitate. Sometimes it'll work in favor. But by this point, we do have 4-hour supply in control. We created this flip zone. That was, oh, that was after. Okay, so we get the 4-hour break. That we're setting up the floor here, and we get it. And I will mention, like this, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I just really want to be clear about it because you could see on today on GU, so we finally clearly mitigate that wick. So that's our first move. Yes, we push down. We hold this 15-minute low here, so technically this didn't break anything significant on the 15-minute, but it is our first push away on the daily. And okay, you could say floor, weak high, sure. But you'll see more often than not that this is a higher time frame amount of value. So trying to target through it is less probability. And you could see price just is struggling to push through it right now. Will it happen sometimes? Yeah, for sure. I would say more significant targeting for a trade down here or a trade in here would be just the IRL, this internal weak high. Even though this overall weak high didn't do anything. So that's my note on that. So now we go into Thursday overnight. We push strongly up to the 4-hour. You'll see it again right here. This is the initial push away from the 4-hour. Didn't do anything significant, but it holds. And then we continue on. And GU unfortunately had great chain. We had 4-hour targets, but did not produce any good trades in here. Just didn't take liquidity. We have this chain forming here. We have this nice flip zone, but it doesn't take liquidity. That would have been liquidity or that one. We wick lower, but by then we've traveled quite a bit to create a new zone. So I threw a new zone on here. We filled the void. Yeah, we took out the whole void. Now looking back at this, maybe, let's see that 15-minute again. So this zone here, I would say this was enough push away to create a new zone. If I didn't create a new zone and I was still trading out of this zone, there's still not really seeing a trade in there for that one either. Let's say this was the liquidity. That would be the break for the liquidity POI. That doesn't happen. We don't get any more liquidity. We won't get as we're reacting off here. We're pushing a little higher. We break it. Maybe squeezing this off as the entry. But that wasn't my plan for that day. On EU, the same thing at price ran quickly up to the 4-hour. There's another thing to note, like this looks like a strong move, but it's doing nothing except mitigating a higher time frame. Again, this appears to do nothing. It holds. Yeah, London open holds that zone, and we start trading down. Think about this day, there really wasn't anything to target on the 15-minute time frame. See, there's no IRL over here. We pull up the 4-hour. We do have a weak low. So a lot of times that will help us just get in because price is moving in that direction. The thing about that is we don't know what's really going on for a mid-time frame target. But with this all being near the 4-hour zone, we're not expecting price to come up either. There's no more IRL. This zone we're expecting to hold because the 4-hour has a weak low. 4-hour has targets. We create this. This was a very weird trade for me. So we create this flip zone here, and price kind of just floats around. The flip zone is pretty weak break here. We come up and we sweep this flip zone and pretty much everything, but none of its structure. And this is where I use GU to help me a lot with this price action, because GU had this just chain. It was just chaining. So if I use that information over on EU, I'd say the only really downfall between it was maybe price would have come up and mitigated the 4-hour, but it would have to break that chain first. So I was willing to take a trade that's set up in here based on this is not the clearest of PA, continuing to trade this sweep out towards a new low and not expecting price to come up because there is no reason for it to come up. After this sweep, this was the confusing one, so I had to reset after that. It wasn't structural liquidity, so taking this, yeah, it's just not doable. Some people do trade sweeps of flip zones as structural, but I didn't do that in this case. These are the trades I prefer in here. This one didn't fill the void. The void would have been filled there, but took liquidity, got the flip, broke the last point before the liquidity, got the floor, got the further break. So yeah, just really got everything I needed fairly quickly on this one after waiting all this time for it to pull back. And yeah, just another 3R trade on the nose. This one messed around for a while, but eventually did sell off. And yeah, right there. And eventually we'll get this big new spike. And then Friday happened. So coming back onto Friday, Friday was a very confusing day for me, mostly because I was still favoring shorts out of here. And I was using GU for a weak low. So this high, this low failed to break this high. We get the one break, we get the floor, we get the further break. I was treating this as a CPB. And using that information on EU, because EU did the same thing. This low really failed to do anything. It didn't break this high. The main difference was that there was no floor. And all we're really doing is going deeper into this weekly at this point. But even a day like today, this high was made late yesterday. It was never broken. So trading shorts and longs, I did end up getting into a short here. This long I did not take because at the time I had this as a CPB. Based on the information on GU. And I thought of taking it because it was a really good setup. But what's really the target at this point? Going deeper into the higher time frame. That's somewhat of a decent chain. Really good POI. It was mostly GU that was throwing me off because GU was indicating I was going to take this out. Then from there, this was the trade I wanted. I took this trade, tapped into the flip zone. I got this carryover floor, took some liquidity, flipped, and see I got in right there. I could even say this was another, no, that wasn't a floor. This was the first break. Say that was another floor, second break. So even double confirmation was right there. Got a break even on that one. This one very clear if you're favoring longs, or at least willing to take. A lot of times, a great POI like this with unclear direction will produce at least enough. You see, just targeting that zone, still 3R. Or at least enough to get to break even. We get this quick break here, and we get the sweep, further break, we get the floor, this little reaction push down. So this is an EM4. That's very similar to what it looks like on the 15-minute. Where this is price here, price mitigates, pushes up, and just wicks the low, and then pushes way up. So that's an EM4. Yeah, so price just wasn't too enthusiastic today. Took my one shot here. GU had a couple of opportunities. Again, I had this one as a CPB, but it quickly the narrative changed back fairly quick with this floor, further break. So we do have this flip zone trading up, just really taking 3Rs because that was the first IRL break. So to target more IRL, we need to hold and break again. Then we can target this. But at the same time, we got the floor. This high failed to break anything, so we could target this high. Again, don't want to target this higher time frame high. So looking at that information, we get these really clear, clean 1 minute price action with a weak narrative, flip zone, push up, sweep, little flip zone, strong bar here. That's always good to see when you're looking for longs. And just take that trade here, 3R. Again, wait for this sweep. So we sweep here, we break this structure with the body, creating this liquidity POI. Take that, and 3R. 3R barely made it here. Been right there. So that is the end of week for second week in June. And that's it. All right, Mr. X out.